What up, y'all? It's your boy BAZ Mayor back in the lab, and y'all already know the business with some Modern Warfare remastered gameplay for y'all. And it's only right, since we just got confirmation not too long ago that we're going back to boots on the ground for COD 2017. And it's about time too. We've been hopping around like kangaroos on crack for 3 years too long, and it's time to pump the brakes on that. But before we get too excited, we gotta remember that just being boots on the ground doesn't automatically mean a good game. There's a lot of factors other than just the movement system that'll determine whether we'll get a good game or if we're gonna get some certified trash. We may be going back to traditional movement, but Sledgehammer still has an uphill battle ahead, and they got a lot of work to do in order for this game to be a success. So here are my top 10 things that Sledgehammer needs to focus on for COD 2017 to be a success. Now this is gonna be a long video, but bear with me because we got a lot to talk about. Number 10. Reveal early and reveal a lot. Now like I just said, Sledgehammer has an uphill battle to fight, and they need to bring in some goodwill. And what better way to do that than to reveal the game a little earlier than usual. We're already excited about boots on the ground, so let's keep this hype train going by not waiting until late April or sometime in May to reveal the game. And we need to stop pretending that multiplayer isn't the most important aspect of the game. Take a page out of Treyarch's book and show that along with the initial reveal, and let us know what to expect. And having a beta is an absolute must. If y'all are confident in the game y'all making, then you need to show it and let us get our hands on it so we can see for ourselves. Call of Duty is kind of in a tight spot right now, so y'all need to keep us reassured that the game is going to be worth picking up on its own merits, and not just because it's attached to a remaster or something. Now I'm going to keep it 8 more than 92 with y'all right now. This kind of dark ages era of COD we're in currently started with y'all, Sledgehammer, so with the reputation y'all got from Advanced Warfare, y'all, more than either of the other two developers, got a lot to prove, and the best way to remedy that is to show us as much as y'all possibly can. Now I know y'all can't just reveal stuff whenever you feel like it, so when y'all do get the chance, y'all need to blow the roof clean off. So the more y'all show us during the reveals, the better. Number 9. Don't just copy Treyarch and Infinity Ward. Now Advanced Warfare had this kind of Treyarch / Infinity Ward hybrid kind of design to it. This time, Sledgehammer needs to bring their own swag to the game. Do something to stand out from the other two developers. Maybe come up with your own creator class system instead of having a pick 10, or in your case, pick 13 system yet again. Or you could have your own third game mode instead of just another zombie mode. Or maybe your own unique movement mechanic like Treyarch did with the dolphin dive and the swimming. Maybe y'all can do something with the art direction that makes the game stand out instead of just looking boring, robotic, or washed out. Whatever y'all do though, get a game some personality so it doesn't feel like a bootleg version of a Treyarch or Infinity Ward game. And don't slack off on the customization neither. Advanced Warfare had pretty good options for decking out your character, so I'd like to see y'all keep that up or improve on it. And let us see our characters' faces and expressions too, instead of just having flat, boring, or motionless suits of armor. And if you're gonna have options for women characters, don't just do like Infinite Warfare did and put a female voice option on obviously male character models. Don't half-ass it, either go all the way or don't do it at all. And if you don't have those options, you need to own up to it. And the same goes for racial options too. Y'all did a pretty good job with that as well in Advanced Warfare, so let's not mess that up this time around either. Number 8. Good streaks. Kill streaks or score streaks or whatever you want to call them have been lacking for some years now. Grinding it out for the highest streak in the game just to end up getting 3, 4, or maybe 5 kills at best just isn't worth it, especially when there's mid-tier streaks that can consistently perform better. Now I know that this one is kind of hard to balance out. You don't want to make the streaks too powerful, otherwise games become too lopsided and people will just rage quit. But you also don't want to make them too weak or the game just gets boring. Also, the streaks need to reflect their cost. Again, why would I equip a super high streak that I might get, if I'm lucky enough, just to get a few kills, when I could just use whatever the game's equivalent of an attack chopper is that I can get more consistently and it'll put in some work. The higher the cost of the streak, the better it needs to be, and the harder it needs to be to counter. Oh yeah, and please, whatever y'all do, no more RC cars. that streak has run its course for real, no pun intended. Number 7, balance guns and perks. Alright, so let me just make this clear. We do not need Battle of Duty ASM 1 Warfare 2. I'd like to be able to use more than just a few guns in y'all's upcoming game. I know it's tough to get the balance right, but when you have a few guns that's just killing everything else, even after some nerfs, then I think we may have a problem. Also, the game gets real boring real fast when it devolves into just a few guns being used. Now, like I said, I know it's tough to get the balance right, and I know you're probably gonna have to hit us with the nerf hammer a few times and some buffs, but y'all gotta be careful with that too. Let's try not to buff weapons into god guns or nerf weapons into complete uselessness. Y'all gotta be careful with the perks too. Too often we have perks that stand out from the rest and become pretty much required on every class. Dead silence. But hopefully y'all can get a good balance on the perks so that all of them feel useful and can allow for a variety of playstyles. And then y'all need counters as well. And if you're gonna have specialists, which I hope to God y'all don't, but if y'all do, make their abilities unique. Don't just do like Infinite Warfare, and I don't want to bash on this game too much, but don't do like Infinite Warfare did and have some of the abilities be perks from older games or pieces of perks that's in the game. Number 6, good maps with consistent spawns. Now the map design is one of the main things that can make or break this game. Just look at Ghosts. We need a variety of small, medium, and large maps. Now if it were up to me, I'd say mostly medium size with a few small maps and a couple large maps. I don't want to play on maps so big that I'm spending most of the match looking for enemies and the game goes to time limit, and I don't want to play on maps so small that I'm constantly spawning around the enemy or that I'm actually able to see enemies spawn in. And speaking of spawns, the spawns need to be consistent and predictable. They don't need to be constantly flipping back and forth and letting people get free kills by just shooting somebody in the back from their spawn. And the game doesn't need to spawn you right next to teammates in the middle of a gunfight like Infinite Warfare does. Now I'm really trying not to bash this game, but it just has so many examples of things that I don't want y'all to do. But moving on, going back to the map design, the maps need to be big enough that you're not constantly spawning around enemies because the map is too small to even have decent spawn points. And also we don't need any off the wall map design like having lanes within lanes within lanes. Now Treyarch pretty much got it right with the 3-lane system. Simple, good flow, and easy to learn. Which also helps with longevity as people will be able to pick up the game later on down the line and easily get accustomed to it. So just follow that system and give us a nice variety of map sizes and of course make them look good, and you should be good to go. Number 5, good pacing. Now going from advanced movement to boots on the ground is going to be a huge departure for a lot of players. I think the best way to deal with this is to try to keep the game kind of fast paced. You don't want to go from the fast pace of the last 3 games and then go back to say slow movement speed with limited sprint. The game is just going to feel like molasses in comparison. You could have movement speed to like Black Ops 2, and please keep the unlimited sprint and the slide to help keep the action going. This also goes back to the map design too. You're going to want to design the maps in a way that promotes people moving around but also allows you to pause for a second and play a little bit more tactically. You got to have a balance though. Tiny maps with everything out in the open is just going to be spawn flipping chaos with everyone using whatever the best SMG or shotgun is. And giant maps with a bunch of buildings and structures to hide in is just going to make the game slow and boring with everyone using snipers and whatever the best long range assault rifle is. And speaking of guns, the guns do play a part in the pacing of the game too. If you make everything super strong and fast killing, that's just gonna make people sit back and wait for someone to run past them, again, like Ghosts. But you also don't wanna make the gun so weak that you spend too much time fighting just one enemy. Again, you gotta have a balance. Number 4, timely communication and fixes. Now if you wanna keep the game going strong, then communicating with us in a timely fashion is a must. We don't need to be waiting weeks for basic features. Hell, we don't need to be waiting for basic features at all. Leaderboards, combat record. But if there is some stuff missing from the game, we can't just be going 2 months after release with no word on how soon we'll get it, and then a bunch of nothing when you finally do decide to address it. If there's some major problems with the game, we need to know what's going on and how soon y'all plan to have it fixed. Otherwise, people are just gonna drop the game. Just a simple, we're aware and we're working on it goes a long way toward keeping goodwill with the community. And this doesn't just apply to when things are going wrong with the game either. Patch notes need to be out as soon as possible, and we need to know the details of what changed. When something like double XP is announced, it needs to work when y'all say it does. And DLC and supply drop content doesn't need to be a bomb dropped out of nowhere, especially if we've been waiting to hear something concerning problems with the game. And it wouldn't hurt to stay active on Twitter or the Reddit forum dedicated to the game. Number 3, network needs to be on point. The network has to be on point for this game. It's 2017. There's no reason to still be using peer-to-peer networking almost exclusively. Again, not trying to bash, but I'm looking at you, Infinite Warfare. Now, if y'all can't get full dedicated servers, then y'all need to at least use the hybrid system where most games are on dedicated servers. And something has to be done about the lag compensation. I'm so tired of running into an enemy that I can't shoot because they're teleporting around like Goku or something. Or I'm trying to shoot somebody in the back just to watch the kill cam and see if they're actually shooting me in the back. Now, if somebody's getting on the game using McDonald's Wi-Fi, then they need to be the ones with the disadvantage, not the ones who actually have good service that's actually made for online gaming. Maybe you can match people up based on their connection quality to help with that problem, after, of course, pooling based on everyone's location. And Sledgehammer, y'all really need to hear this one, because this was one of, if not the biggest issue with your last game. No skill-based matchmaking. Let me repeat that. No skill-based matchmaking. I talked in another video about how constantly playing against your same skill level doesn't help anyone, but the most important reason that skill-based matchmaking is hot garbage is because of the connections. Disregarding location just because of KD or score per minute is just pure nonsense. We don't need to be playing with people on the other side of the world just because we're too good or too bad at the game. Connection is everything. If the connections aren't good, the game literally isn't playable. Now, one thing Infinite Warfare did that I like is letting you know in the pre-game lobby if a game is in process, so you can decide right then if you want to play the match without having to waste time waiting for the game to load. Now, the big problem with that is, I imagine a lot of people aren't going to want to play games in progress, so a lot of times you'll get in the say, or 4 versus 3 match, and the lobby will never fill up because no one will ever join. Now, I think you can solve this by showing the score and the time left in the match. Now, I know personally, if it's early enough in the match, I wouldn't mind playing it. And keep the lost stat prevented feature as well. Oh yeah, and show some love to the solo players this time around. I'd like to see the mercenary playlist come back, but if you could do something like match parties with parties and solo players with other solo players, that would be dope. Number 2, a reasonable supply drop system. Now, we all know that supply drops are here to stay. Activision made $3.6 billion last year off of in-game content, partly due to supply drops. Y'all introduced them to the franchise and they were a huge success for Activision. We know they're not going anywhere, so there's going to be no need to hide their existence or delay the reveal of them or any nonsense like that. We know supply drops are going to be in your game. Now, with that said, you can make a reasonable system that actually makes people want to open drops instead of just clearly being there for the sole purpose of getting in our pockets. Instead of flooding the drops with a bunch of crap like Nigerian knee pads to decrease the chances of getting stuff that looks good, why not just make everything look good? We know weapons are going to be in the drops, and that's what everybody's going to go for, so there's no need for crap camos and crap gear when camos and gear are the crap compared to the weapons. Make everything look good so it doesn't sting as badly when we don't get weapons. And while we're on the subject of weapons, it would be nice if y'all would let us get used to the base weapons in the game first before hitting us over the head with variants or new guns. If y'all could wait to at least say DLC 1 to start dropping weapons, I think that would be a decent compromise. In fact, to be honest, I don't think you even need weapons for the drops to be successful. Just to look at Overwatch, another reason for that $3.6 billion. Everything in that game is strictly cosmetic. and it helps that almost all of the content looks good. But there is one big reason why loot boxes in that game are a success despite being cosmetic only. But before I get into that, here are some honorable mentions. Honorable mention number 1, minimal silliness. Now notice I said minimal, not none. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of humor in the game, but do we need a game full of dancing and nonsense weapons? I mean, don't get me wrong, some of this stuff is cool, and I even used some of it in Black Ops 3, but moderation is the key here. Too much silliness and the game starts to look like a parody. Honorable mention number 2, safeguarding against exploits and banning cheaters. Now this is self-explanatory. Now I know you can't catch everything before launch, but anyone taking advantage of exploits needs to get hit with that ban hammer. And it would be nice if you could fix the weapon mechanics so jitter mods and other cheats won't work. Honorable mention number 3, make the camos worthwhile. The camos gotta look good so I have a reason to go for them. And hopefully the challenges are reasonable and I don't have to get like 500 long shots or something. And if y'all can keep it like Advanced Warfare where I can go for any challenge at any time, that would be dope. Honorable mention number 4, good game modes and ways to entice people to play them. Y'all gotta have a variety of good game modes. Old classics mixed in with some new ones that y'all come up with on y'all own. And to keep the game from becoming just TDM, domination, search and destroy, give us some incentive to play other game modes like daily challenges and double XP. And now for the number 1 thing y'all need to do to ensure that this game is a success. Focus more on the game than on supply drops. Now I said that there was one big reason why Overwatch is successful with cosmetic drops only. And you want to know what that reason is? Because the game is actually good. Now it should be common sense that if people actually want to play the game, then they'll be more inclined to buy extra in-game content. But we saw Infinite Warfare launch with broken challenges, glitches and exploits, connection errors, and missing features going weeks or even months without fixing problems, but steady adding supply drop content. And even by Activision's own admission, that didn't work out so well for them. Sales were not where they wanted them to be, even with Modern Warfare Remastered attached to it. But I don't want to beat a dead horse again and bash on Infinite Warfare too much, so I'll just say this. Sledgehammer, y'all do not need to fall into that same trap. Make sure the game is complete before drowning us in a bunch of supply drop content. We don't need to be waiting months for a combat record and leaderboards that hide the player count. We don't need parties that don't work, a bunch of map exploits, terrible connections, or broken character animations. And y'all need to give us a healthy amount of stock weapons too. Having only like 5 guns max per weapon category is just unacceptable. If we only have like 20 base guns total to choose from, it's gonna look like the game is incomplete or that most of the content is behind supply drops and people aren't gonna wanna play the game. So this year, more than any other year, the game has to be good for the sake of Call of Duty and the Call of Duty community. If this one isn't a hit sales wise and especially reception wise, it might be the end of COD as we know it. So you absolutely cannot afford to half-ass it. This game has to be fire, and I hope that's exactly what y'all are working on. But that's all I got for now. So if you like what you saw, leave a like, leave a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. B8Z Mayor, and I'm out, y'all. Peace.